Okay, well, great. Well, thanks. Welcome everyone to the April competition meeting. So first, I did welcome at least one new member, Joe Weber. I don't know if he's on.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so welcome. I'm looking for my view here, and glad to have you here. And then checking to see if we have any visitors here. We have Philip Rogers, Carol. It's kind of hard to tell with the list, but any visitors that are checking us out for the first time? They want to introduce themselves or say hi?
Yeah, Kelly Ferguson.
Yeah, hi. I'm this is my second meeting. So yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome back.
I don't know what kind of things you want to know, or if you just wanted to know that I'm visiting.
Just I mean, did we I can't remember, if in the last meeting, if you had an opportunity. Just usually we just ask for, how did you find us, and then what kind of photography you're interested in, and what you're looking for, out of the club.
Gotcha. I did introduce myself the last time, but I found this group through a Google search because I was in a similar one in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm in Denver now. And so I mainly wanted to look for something like this just to kind of get connected with other people and continue to work on my craft. But I do portraiture mainly and some sports photography.
Okay. Well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And anyone else there that is?
Yeah, this is Philip Rogers. I'll introduce
Philip.
myself again. I was at the last meeting also, so this is the first time at one of the competition ones.
Okay.
I found you through the internet, same way, just looking for a place to get together with other people and get some feedback on my photography. And I do mostly wildlife and landscape stuff.
Well, great. Well, welcome back.
And so
All right, well,
I'd say a couple words too. My name is Joe Weber, and this is my first meeting.
okay.
I've traded emails with Dave Hull recently, and I found a club in the same way. I was looking for a photography club that I could join and learn how to improve my photography. And I really wanted to join when we could meet in person. And we can't really do that right now, but this is better than not meeting at all. And so I like taking all kinds of photographs. I like landscape, flowers, sunsets, sunrises, mountain scenes. I just love taking pictures, and I can't wait to get back home to see what they look like.
Great. Well, welcome back. And all right, well, let's jump on into the competition. So tonight's competition subject is nature. So nature photography is a depiction of the natural world in such a fashion that a well-informed person is able to identify the subject. Nature photography focuses on landscape, wildlife, and plant life as they're found in the natural environment. And our judge this evening is Becky Witt. And Becky began her photographic career photographing birds, but has expanded to all areas of nature and beyond. It now includes hand of man and non-nature subject. Becky, who when she began shooting just tried to get sharp and properly exposed shots, I say that fast, but now she creates images that engages the viewer, evokes an emotion or feeling and wonder. She's a past member of the executive board of Camera Naturalists, currently serves on the board of Somerset County Photo Club, conducts photography workshops for NJ Audubon, and acts as a judge for photography clubs all around New Jersey. So thanks for helping us out tonight, Becky. Do you want to say any more words or anything else to share with the group?
Not much more about me. I do try to get images that evoke good feelings or feelings that I want to have there. I don't always succeed, but in any case, I want to just share my perspective of judging. I feel contests are a part of the learning experience. So I'm hoping that my critique will help you learn more about your images or how to improve images in general. Um, and whatever I say, of course, it is subjective. I try not to be subjective, but it will be. Uh, that's just human nature here. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm looking forward to the images. I did get the preview of the images, so hopefully with Zoom there won't be any issues with sharpness. I had the images in JPEG, so I could see them on my computer without being transmitted through Zoom. So here we go.
All right. Well, great. Well, thanks. So tonight we have about 47 images across the 4 different groups. And, as usual, if there's any black and white images in a category, we'll show them first and then followed by the colored ones. After each category, we'll pause. And if there were any images that scored 10, we'll ask the maker we'll redisplay the image, ask the maker to say a few words about the image. And that is it. Anything else? We're ready to roll. Okay, well, I'll ask people to please mute yourself if you can, and then we'll, and you may want to drop video too, just to, increase your bandwidth, but then we'll go ahead and have Bob take it away. Great.
One second.
So this first image is grazing elk.
Do you use the annotation, the annotate tools? I can, if you allow that.
We could. I didn't.
It doesn't matter. I can, if it's not set up to do that, that's fine. I can just be as descriptive as possible.
Yeah. If you could just describe what areas you're talking about, that'd be great.
Okay, that's fine. Let me just move this out of the way then. Okay. So this is an interesting image of a grazing elk. For me, because it looks like the butt of an elk plus the antlers. That's an unusual capture. Usually you have the face of the elk. So for me, it might have been your creative perspective, but like images of people, you'd usually like to see the face. So for me, that takes away from the impact of this image. And you also need to watch the whites in this one. The white on the butt is really starting to blow out, and I'm losing some detail on it. But primarily for me, the image doesn't make it to really stand out for the animal. So I'm going to give this I'm going to give this a 7.
Okay, next image. P. ponderosa.
For me, this image doesn't have a lot of impact. Maybe if you got closer and did a specific part of the tree, or maybe if you did it primarily as a silhouette. There is some detail in the bottom and it's blurry. And then we've got a tree that is more or less in focus, but really doesn't have that much uniqueness about it. So from that perspective, I think the composition could have been a better and be more impactful. For that, I would give this a 6.
I think the last one with the elk, I'm missing something. Mine are popping up as setting to 3. So 3.
Yeah.
3s would be 8s and 6 would be 1 anyway.
Yeah, we're recording it separately too. So yeah, we have a few people that actually keep track of the score, independent of that rating.
Okay, so that was a 6
Grayscape.
Okay. This one, the maker did something rather creative. And I look at this and I'm not quite sure how or what it is. But let me just tell you my feelings of it. I think it sets a mood that it looks to me it's like reflections on ice or ice and water. I may be wrong. But also, I think you need to do a little bit more with the curves and the levels here. I realize that like the misty look to the background, you might like that for the feeling, but you've got this dark open water at the bottom that really distracts me. So I have to get over that and into the rest of the picture. So I just think a little bit more of managing the tonalities a little better, but it's a creative view. I think it does start to set a mood. I just think it could have been technically executed or edited a little better. So I'd like to give this one an 8.
Prince Charming.
Okay, nice clear capture of the frog. And the colors behind it are really complementary and set it off. My one thing I might change on this is I don't know that you need all the space at the bottom. I mean, a negative space can be really nice. However, this is also very bright negative space. So your eye usually goes to some of the brightest things, and then it goes to some of the sharpest and the most, well, that's probably the brightest, the sharpest, and then the most saturated. So I think this might have been improved a little bit if you cut off maybe a third of the bottom, and it might have ended up being a square crop. I don't think that bothers me at all, but I just think all the white at the bottom detracts from your subject. But still, I think this is a really nice capture, and I think you did a lovely job of setting up a mood with it. So I'm going to give this a 9.
Fox Squirrel.
Okay, the fox squirrel, according to the title, is the key element here. And the fox squirrel is sharp and it's in half decent light. However, it's a very, very, very small part of this image. And I think your fox squirrel would actually been improved, and maybe you just didn't have enough pixels to crop it. But I think a significant crop from the right and a crop from the left. From the left, I would crop just beyond the out of focus tree in the background. And from the right, I would crop, give him a little space so his nose breathes. And then I might also crop it from the top. Just because I really want this fox squirrel to stand out. Some of the cropping would also help with the distracting background. It would get rid of some of the bright things in the background that take your eye back there. So I think it was, I think you captured the animal sharply. I think you could have either cropped it or caught it differently. I mean, I don't know if you had a longer lens and could have gotten a longer reach. So from that perspective, I think it's an 8.
Faroe Island Sunset.
Okay, here we have a landscape, which for me, the idea is to let the water lead me through. Usually the water like this would lead you through the image. There are some significant technical issues with this, though, that stop that from happening. One, the water, the reflection of the light in the water is blown out. There's no detail there. And the same for many of the bright clouds up in the sky. So that doesn't help the image. And also then the reflection, I mean, not the reflection, the shadow of the cloud on the land in the foreground has really darkened it down. And so you start to lose detail there. So I think you could have handled the exposure better on this. The idea of having the leading line through it is a nice compositional aspect of it. For me, this is a 7.
Muddy Spring Trail.
Okay. Now again, here we have water leading us through the image, has a nice sort of C curve, C or S curve going through the rocks. And that's a good compositional aspect to it. And the rocks are well lit at the top. However, the shadow at the bottom detracts from it. I really want my eye to move along that water and move through the canyon, but the darkness, the shadows in the bottom are keeping my eye away from doing that. And I think if you'd open up the shadows a little bit down in the bottom of that, especially the lower right hand of this image, it might have helped draw the eye in through the image better. So I think compositionally you had a nice setup. Either in post-processing, well, I probably would have had it been done with post-processing because I'm assuming the shadows are coming from the light as it is, or maybe even different time of day for the light would improve this image. And so for me, this is an 8.
This is a lit Israel from the summit of Mount Carmel on a stormy day. Okay. This image has some significant issues for me. And I don't know if it was done intentionally. I see so many different really saturated colors, the bright turquoise on the upper hill on the left, and the deep blue and teal almost, or blue in the vegetation on the lower part of the left. And then we have the bright yellow down in the corner. So, and then in the back, there are buildings, but there's all kinds of colors going on in there. So I'm not quite sure what the intent of that was. From looking at this image and seeing what it is, I thought the idea would be to lead me through the image and back through the town below, and back into the desert where it looks like there might be an inversion, a cloud inversion. But I'm not getting that. I got a bright foreground. I got all these other colors that are distracting me. So I'm not sure if it's the capture, but I definitely think it's in the post-processing where this image needs some more work. And for that perspective, I would give this a 6. Okay, and that wraps it up for the F5.6 group. We do have 1.9, which show Prince Charming by Laura Blake. The floor is on.
Yes, I'm here. I'll turn is my camera on?
It was.
It was.
How are you? Prince Charming was in Kansas, in a pond in Kansas. There were a lot of frogs in Kansas. And just as the sun was setting, so that gave that golden sheen.
Lovely colors.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. Okay, next we're off to F8. So here we have Swiss Sun.
Okay, so for me, this being a landscape, again, I want my eye to go through the image and focus on something. And right now, the place it's going to is the bright white sun, which is overexposed. And now suns can be overexposed, but in this case, it's just strikingly there. So I totally seem to just go right over everything else. And I think there's an interesting mid-ground here before the mountains. The other issue I have with this image is the out of focus foreground. All the reeds or grasses, bushes in the front on the right, and there's a lot of out of focus on the left. There also seems to be a lot of pixelation, so I didn't know if this was, I don't know that was intentional for a landscape like this, and I didn't know if it was a significant crop. That might also do it. So from that perspective, for me, this is a 6.
Cruising along.
Okay, your bird came out nice and sharp, and it's great that it turned his head. Otherwise, you got a butt shot, and that's not the most flattering for anything. Birds, people, you name it. Though the post-processing is pretty crunchy. I also would like to see a little bit more light on his eye. I realize there's a shadow there, but if you could open up the shadows a little bit on his eye, just so that we really go there. But the crunchiness around the water, around the bird, and even in the bird itself, to me detracts from the image. So I think you got a nice capture in the sense that you got a bird in a pretty good position, and you eliminated other distracting items in the image. I'd give this an 8.
Side glance.
Okay. So I don't know if you intended to use selective focus, if that's what the photographer meant, because here we've got, I don't know if they're gulls on the tree or they're nuts or what they are, but anyway, the growth on the tree, the one sort of in the third from the right, is the sharpest. But we have a lot of out of focus stuff that detracts from it and doesn't really help bring us in, because it's not only out of focus, but it's also pretty bright. And I think the exposure is off. I think it's probably overexposed. I don't know, half a stop. So you lost some of the definition in your in the bark of the branch, as well as in whatever the growth on the branch is. 6.
Okay, into the wild blue yonder.
Okay, an interesting capture. You got a beautiful sky, but you do have some issues here. I like the various geese. However, nobody is really facing us, so everybody's going away. But okay, let's assume this is a going away image. That I can go from there. But however, the whites look blown out. I don't see detail in like the breast whites or in the cheek pat whites of these Canada geese. And also the blacks are not showing any detail. For the most part, the blacks are closed up and they need to be, the shadows need to be opened up there. So it's compositionally, it isn't the strongest, but it has some nice feel to it with that sky behind it. But processing and the lighting is just not helping the image. So from that perspective, this is a 7.
Okay, thank you. And that is it for F8. So we didn't have any 9s or 10s there. Hey, Becky, just quickly, I know that you had a chance to review these, offline ahead of the competition. So, comments like on the highlights here in the blacks, is that something that you had noticed in the images that were sent, just so that we make sure it's just not an artifact of Zoom and the reduced?
I saw I actually have the images next to me if I need to look at them.
Okay, cool.
I saw these also when I looked at them on my screen.
Okay, good. Thanks.
From those that were sent, not just transmission. Thank you, though. I appreciate the opportunity to take that.
Okay, F11. So just so you know, Becky, one of the things I did say is, we do have open, while we're doing COVID, we do allow open images too, in the category, but just so you're aware. So this first one is steady.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of that other thing. Anyway, yes, I understood that. I think the capture you caught a great moment. The concentration on the young man's face is really good. And I think the black and white treatment works well too. I'm not so thrilled about the edginess. Let me say there's a lot of artifacts around the hand of the young man, and also around all the balls. Now that might have been an artistic choice to go that way, because you know there's a lot of edginess in the shirt and things like that. But I'm seeing these highlight artifacts around there. The rim lights, well, they're not really rim lights, but assuming that was an artistic choice, there are a couple lighting issues that I think you could handle differently or might want to look into. And that is in the background on the upper left-hand side, there's a chair, but it's a lot of white and black with that chair. So I would tone down those whites because, again, your eye ghost is the brightest things. And although his shirt is nice and bright, that piece pulls my eye away. The other thing is there's a nice, a vignette on the image, no problem with that, because you can use that to help focus it on the subject. But in this case, the brightest part of that vignette is on the table, near the balls, not even the balls that he is working on. And so for me, I would have liked to seen it actually closer to him. I'd like to see his face lit up, just the shadows opened up just a little bit on his face, so that my eye really goes there, because that's where the story is. So I think it's a nice capture. I think you got a good position there of your subject. I'd give this an 8.
Morning cranes.
Okay, I like the panel. That's good. And I like that little bit of a foreground, so that you have a foreground, you have the mountain, and you have the big sky. The birds are quite small in the image, but I guess that does give a feeling of vastness to the area. And I think the light's been handled well. I just wish the birds were a little bigger, but I can't change that. So I think for me, this is a 9.
Beauty of Colorado.
All right, so I did take a close look at this one. Well, I took a close look at all of them, but I took a close look at this one from the images that you sent me. And I really like the way the flower is positioned in the frame. I like it coming in and curving a little bit and going through the frame like that. It leads you right through. However, the flower is soft. Those leaves in the front look a little sharper, but the flower is soft. I like the blurred background, but the out of focus flower detracts from this composition. That's an important part of the composition. So for me, that knocks it down at least some. So I like a lot about it. So I'm going to give it an 8.
The life of a snail.
Okay. Well, I think the photographer had a creative vision here, and it works most of the way. I like the flow of the water going out. I like the snail by the edge. I think the position of the snail is in a good spot. But to me, the snail looks soft, and I think I would like to see that snail be as sharp as possible, at least the shell, and because that's the focal point of this image. But I think it's a creative view. I like the amount of space, the negative space that was allowed, and I think it leads you through there. So 9.
Back to back beauty.
The maker handled the whites very well. It's easy to blow them out, but I see good detail in the whites, and the centerpiece of the flower looks pretty much in focus from the best I could tell. I do like, it's okay. I like the inclusion of some of the foliage. I know that's a personal choice. However, the foliage is particularly on the left-hand upper side. It's so bright and so vibrant. It really starts taking your eye away from the central image, which is the white flower, or the 2 white flowers. The one on the part of the foliage on the right is toned down a lot more. So I think you need to watch that and tone down that upper left part, and even the little curl that goes over the top of the image. 9.
Dark waters.
And they are dark. I've looked at this image and I thought the idea was for the water to lead me through the image. And that doesn't quite happen for a couple reasons. And the water itself isn't that exciting. It is dark. It's probably tannic. But in any case, partly because we have this bright white set of rocks on the lower right hand corner, and sort of my eye gets stuck there. Also, the vegetation in the rocks along the back, where we have all those beautiful striations, it seems soft and out of focus and blurry. So I think this was an idea, but I don't think the capture works to get it. So for me, this is a 7.
Hidden falls.
Okay, this image has a nice set of a flow of the water. It leads you right up and through the image, from the lower left up to the upper right, and which is a nice nice movement in the image. One thing, and I like, people like different versions of the water. They either like it crisp, they like it silky, they like it in between. I have no problem with you liking it silky. I believe there's a little bit of blowout in some of the water at the top of the falls, but not that significant. It's almost enough that I can barely tell. But what I do think would help this image a lot is to put a little bit of darken down the rocks that are along the edges to help me really focus my eye in on that white, that beautiful waterfall. Also, there's a bunch of sticks in the middle that sort of isn't the most lovely thing, but unless you had a helper who could go out there and remove them, I don't know what you do. So I'm going to forget about that. But I think using some burning to help contain my eye and keep it focused on that water would be much more helpful. And for that reason, I'll give this an 8.
Waiting for Alice.
Now, when we're done, I want to know, is this a real toad? But anyway, I'm assuming it is. It doesn't really matter. So everything is nice and sharp that needs to be sharp in this image. The toad, the mushroom. I think you would improve the composition. Actually, I don't think you need all the room on the right or the left. The image is really in there around the toad and the mushroom. Also, I think you might want to darken down a little bit the out of focus vegetation in front of the toad, just because that can be distracting. It's bright and it's distracting. I mean, the toad is definitely the brightest. So I would have toned that down. For me, this is a 9 though. It tells a good story.
All right, mountain goats on Buffalo Mountain.
Several things I like about this image. I like how you were able to catch the goats, the mountain goats, plus the background. And although usually I don't like to see the butts of an animal, in this case, because they turned their heads, first I see their faces, so that works. But also, it gives me an idea of their environment. I feel that drop off. I feel the precariousness of their environment. A couple things I think that will improve this image. I think opening up brightening up the eyes a little bit on both the parent and the kid or the baby. And I think you could also darken down some of the rocks in the foreground, because I think they're pretty bright and they start to detract from your goats, which are very nicely handled. 9.
Crabapple.
it's a nice, simple story. From that perspective, I like it a lot. The background, that high key, making like a high key background, that works very well. The vegetation is a bit distracting, and I know you blurred it out, but I can see all the, I can see a lot of artifacts around the blurring. At least that's what it looked like to me. Because I was really hoping that you could have moved a little bit one way or the other to get less of the branch behind it. But the colors are really nice in the fruit, and they're not oversaturated. I can see the detail in the fruit. 9.
Lunar landscape.
So this is a landscape that also serves almost as a pattern shot or an abstract. I like the crevices leading you into the image, and it actually leads you totally through the image from the front, around, and out the upper left-hand side. I do think, though, it's a little overexposed. I think if you brought it down, just the exposure down just a notch, maybe half a exposure, and also give it maybe, or put a little bit of curves on this to give a little more detail. I think those lines would even pop a little more and lead you through. Now, you also might not want to do it too much, because that might be part of the feeling you're going for, that sort of like a dreamscape. This is a lovely image, and I'd say this is a 10.
Right, leaf explosion.
And it is a leaf explosion. For me, there's almost too many leaves, though. Okay, so I believe you want me to pay attention to the cluster in the center. And I think from that perspective, I either would have cropped it in a little bit, maybe I would have vignetted it, or darkened, burned a little bit the outer edges to tone down some of the really bright leaves that are taking me away from the center cluster. Just a little bit, so sort of bring my eye in. The leaves by and large look pretty sharp, and I also would tone down that center leaf just a little bit, because I think you also want me to look at the blues and the purples, which are so pretty in the center. 8.
Approaching storm.
Okay. There's a lot going on in this image, and there truly is a lot of drama in that sky. So I can understand why you might want to, where you kept all that sky. There are some howevers for this image. I'm not quite sure where I'm supposed to look at other than the sky. There's a lot of foreground here, but and a lot of it seems to be out of focus. It's fuzzy. And so from that perspective, it's not, that doesn't make it the strongest image. You also might have want to cropped it from the left and taken out the bright tree that sort of distracts me over there. Because it just doesn't really lead me through this image back to the clouds. So for me, this isn't the strongest composition. And I think there's some technical issues as well. 7.
Summit, long, scraggy peak.
I like the various layers in this image. We have the foreground with the big rocky area, and then we have the mountains going in the back, and finally the sky with the clouds. So it's a nice, and you can lead through that. couple things I think could improve this or strengthen the image and help lead us through it. I would tone down the big rocks right in the front because they're very bright and my eye wants to go there. And I think you really want to lead me through the image. So I would tone them down a little bit and maybe even brighten up the rocks and trees in sort of like the next layer so that I start to progress through the image. I also would, I thought about maybe you might want to crop it more from the left, but I actually like seeing the edge of the rock formation because it gives me a sense of place. But what I would have done is darken down or even remove, if that's within your values, I would remove some of the bright things on the left-hand edge, right along the edge. And these are like one or two little things up as you go up through the next layer of the dark mountains too. Okay, so having said all that, I do like the image. I think it really does take you through. It can take you through the image, but it needs a little work. 9.
Making a beeline.
Okay, the bee, at least the face and the body is pretty much in focus, and the focus falls off, but that's okay. That's the important part. And the bee is very colorful. However, it's also has some really bright limey green vegetation in the lower left and right in front of it. And that bright green, yellowish green vegetation takes my eye away from the bee. So I think it would help to tone that down a bit. I also think you've lost some definition, both definitely it might be focus. I'm not sure if it's focus and loss of definition in the whites of the flower the bee is on. So you might even want to tone those down a little bit. So a little bit of dodging and burning to help make your bee stand out even better. Some of the other tones in the background are nicely muted and not as saturated as that lower right-hand corner. 8.
Okay, that is it for the F11. We have 110. There you go. All right. This is Lunar Landscape by Sean Slade.
Thanks for the comments on this. This is a place called Moonscape Overlook in Utah, the Badlands area of Utah. And it is very surreal looking out there. Yeah, your comments, I think I will go back and relook at trying to drop some of the highlight down a little bit and see if it adds a little bit more depth to it. I appreciate that, those comments, but I'm glad you liked it. Thank you.
But as I said, you have a nice capture. You really, that line that goes through it just is a beautiful line. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, the drainage patterns out there are just unreal. If you haven't been, I would recommend it.
One we can travel a little more freely, although we're getting there.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Okay, on to F16.
Okay.
Ethereal Canyon Light.
The black and white treatment really works on this for me. It accentuates all the different shapes and lines in the canyon, and I like that. And I'm looking at the whites, and they look like they're pretty well controlled. I can see detail in all the whites. There might be a little bit in one spot where there isn't much detail, but very little of that. So it's got a really pleasing view, and the lines, all this black and white, also the lines just lead you through the image. 10.
Nature's Sculpture.
Okay, the way this is presented is not the strongest, I think, for it. I mean, you want me to look at this, the ice sculpture, and I do like the background of the water, And I guess the black and white works. I don't think it's the black and white issue here. I think that works fine. And I do like that the water, it goes out of focus, you know, the selective focus, or that it goes out of focus as you go back through. That helps accentuate it. But the specular highlights are really so bright, the specular highlights on the water, that they just keep taking my eye away from the sculpture. And I don't think that adds to it. So from that perspective, I think that lessened the impact of the sculpture. An 8. And maybe it could have been brightened, the sculpture itself could have been brightened up. I don't, a little bit. Okay, the rhino. I'm not sure that the black and white really works with this, because the rhino is such a similar tonality as the background. But you do see it does have a lot of lines and textures. However, the eye, the mouth, and the horn of the rhino all seem to be out of focus. They're soft. And I think they really need to be in focus to really give the impact that you need for this guy. So from that perspective, I think this is a 7. I like your choice of doing a portrait. Are you still announcing them and I don't hear you? It's okay.
I'm sorry. Hold your head high. There
Okay,
was.
I just want to.
I'd muted myself because I'm here coughing.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Got to unmute.
Feel better. Okay. Nice portrait of the eagle's head. Everything is tack sharp, particularly, well, you lose a little bit of focus as you go down the neck, but what's really important is the eye and the bill and the beak, and they're really sharp. And so that's very nice. And in this case, the black and white works because the white stands out against the dark background. There is one little thing, one little name. I would have either cloned out or cropped it a little differently from the bottom. There's a little bit of wing just showing there, and it's just clipped, so it looks like a mistake. And I won't take that into account, but I just think that's one thing that you could take care of, and it would make it even stronger for me. 10.
Stone ridges.
Okay, I don't know how the color would look on this, but the black and white does seem to accentuate the ridges on the stone. However, this image has a problem for me with exposure. It seems to be overexposed, particularly on the left side, and actually going up, starting to go up the ridge from the left. And that seems to be rather important, because that's sort of the way the flow works in this image, or maybe it works from the upper right down to the lower left, whichever way. So I think that the exposure or the dodging and burning in post-processing could be improved in this image. It just seems to be overexposed. 7.
Galapagos hawk.
Okay. The hawk is nice and sharp. It might help to open up the shadows a little bit, or lighten up the eye a little bit, so that my eye goes more to his face. I'm not sure the black and white works that well with this guy. And my reasoning is the tonalities aren't quite that different between the background and the hawk. Now, I don't know what the background was like, so possibly the idea of blurring it and or desaturating it would help a lot. And you did do some of that. It's just, it makes it, he just blends in a little better with the gray background. I also think I would probably tone down that diagonal branch. The diagonal branch is lovely, and his pose is lovely. But I'd still give this an 8.
Sandhill cranes.
Nice capture of the cranes. good lighting on them. And you can see those faces, they're all lit up. And you got some nice wing positions. I know you have a couple overlap of the birds in the front, but for the most part, you can see all their heads distinctly. And towards the back, most of them are separated. So that's really lovely. 10.
Misty morning.
Okay, this is one of those images that gives you a nice feel. You feel like you're in that kind of mood. And it really is the feel of being, in the at the water with the meadows and all the fog rising up. And that I really like. I I and I think you kept just the right amount of the foreground, not too much, and that allows us to lead us into the middle ground where the birds are on the ground, and then into the sky with all the fog and the birds rising up. One thing, if I could have, I would want to remove. I'd hate to lose the foggy part, but I want to remove that the big clump of earth on the on the left hand side, middle, because that just sort of takes my eye away. And maybe it would just be better to crop it before that. Still a 9.
Standing guard.
This is a unique capture, and it is nice and sharp in the center, and it's well lit in the center where the main focus is of the guards, in my mind. I think what I would either have done is maybe even cropped it more from each side, but definitely even if I didn't crop it, I think I would tone down the sides. I'd burn the sides a little bit, and also I'd watch for there are 2 white, one on each side, about a third down from the top, on each side of the main attraction in the center. So I think I would darken that down too, just to really keep my eye focused on that center piece. Otherwise, it sort of wanders to those brighter spots on the edges. 9.
Simply sand and sky.
And it is simply sand and sky. I like the line that the sand makes. I like that diagonal line with the undulation over the dune there. I'm not quite sure I need quite so much sky, but that's an artistic choice. Here's my reasoning. I think if we cropped it down about a third from the top, and you'd have to play with this, I'd start to feel that I'd really like that line going through it a little better, but that might just be my desire. But it's a well-handled exposure, and it's a lovely composition, and although it's simple, it does have a nice impact. 10.
Bobby Soxer tree procession.
I understood the title. I got it. And I just feel that the image is too cluttered. I mean, if you really want me to follow this line of trees, then the second tree down with all the branches coming out of it, it really hides the other trees. And then there's some other trees at the top that sort of take my eye away too. The bottoms of the white trees at the top sort of lead me back there where you don't want me to go. So I feel compositionally, I don't know if you needed to step around the second tree to get a better line of the ones behind it, because I think that's where I think I want to go. But I got a lot blocking me in the front. So compositionally, I think this could be improved. The whites may be a little blown out. That's hard to tell for me. I do see some detail in them, so I think that the exposure is not necessarily a problem for me. The composition. 7.
early spring along the South Platte River.
Okay, this has a nice feel, very, very easygoing. You know, you've got this nice smooth water and it takes an S curve through it. I don't know that we need quite as much sky, but again, that might be just me. That's what I guess I like. Because I think there's a lot of sky up there that is not as interesting. There's a lot of lovely lower level clouds that are. So this has a nice feel and it's a nice composition. 9.
An early evening snack.
Well, I'm glad he turned that the animal turned his head towards us so we can see his face. Otherwise, it would be a butt shot. And I do think you could lighten up the eye a little bit on him or give it a little more detail to really bring out the face a bit. But it's a nice capture. It's a nice environmental capture. The sky is well handled, and you didn't include too much. I might have cropped a little bit from the bottom, particularly because you gave him enough room for his feet to fit in. That's great. And you gave enough room for him to the right so he can move into the image. But in the bottom, the reason I might crop the bottom a little bit is a lot of that, some of the grasses at the bottom are bright and they're out of focus and they detract from the image a little bit. So I'll give this a 10 because I think those are minor.
Leopardess.
The leopard is beautiful, you know, so sharp. The belly's going out of focus, but the face, the front paws, the teeth, the nose, the ears, they're all really nice and sharp. The surrounding environment is troublesome for me. I mean, we got the big heavy branch above him, and I know he's on a tree, so yes, there is another branch, and we got some funky artifacts, it seems, in the background. What's going on with the background? So although the leopard is nice and sharp, the environmental part of it doesn't really enhance it. And I do wonder if, you know, this would have been better to crop it and just done the head and the front paws, you know, almost a portrait of them. I mean, I know you like the tail, has a nice thing, but it's just the background just is distracting with all the artifacts that seem to be going on back there. Okay, I'll give this an 8.
Nature's design.
Nice perspective of capturing this plant, and how some of it does seem to go out of focus. So I'm wondering if this is one where focus stacking might have helped. Although the focus is pretty well kept, at least in the front. I do also like that you kept the colors aren't bleeding. You know, you didn't overexpose those colors. They're nice, and you can see detail in them. I might have darkened down the edges a little bit more because they sort of get bright as you go out. You did some of that, I think. But I think that would have actually brought us in even closer. Or you might even want to try to crop in even more closely and get a real close-up shot. Nice image, though. 10.
The watchful eye.
Nice close-up of the flamingo. And there's only 2 little things I would suggest that might improve it in my mind. It's a very nice image. One is, again, to brighten up the eye a little bit or giving a little more detail to it, so your eye goes more to there. the white sear, the white in front of the eye is pretty bright. So it'd be nice to take us a little more to the eye. And one little nit up in the upper right hand corner, either crop it down or if you can, get rid of the little black corner. But this is such a lovely image. 10.
Singing sparrow.
Okay, and that it is. So we got a bird doing something, singing its heart out. A sparrow singing its heart out. I like the diagonal of the plant that he's on, and he's nice and sharp. He may have been over sharpened because the plant looks a little over sharpened. And I think you don't need quite as much on the bottom, but it's a nice capture. I'd say a 9. Like the background that's also muted.
Buffalo and housekeeper.
Yes, sir. Oh, I like that you caught the oxpecker on the buffalo, and you did a really nice job of toning down and blurring the background, either by the capture or by your post processing. I might use a little bit of levels or curves on the faces of the buffalo in order to give them just a little bit more snap to them, a little more contrast, I guess it would be. But I like seeing their faces, and they're in very nice light. 10.
Reflection of nature.
It turns out that a simple image makes some really nice geometric patterns. The negative space works well off to the left because you also have that trailing piece of it. I might have chosen to bring it down just a little bit in exposure, maybe half a stop, but it's a nice simple image. I don't know if it's quite as impactful as some of the others, but it is a nice image. I'll give this a 9.
South Rim storm.
Okay, that is quite a storm. There's a lot going on in here, and for me, maybe a little too much. I like that you have the different layers. You have the goldy orange, the burgundy color, and then the bluish background of all the layers of rock. And then that leads us out into the top of the mesa or whatever, into the storm with the lightning. So I like the different levels. I think one of the things that bothers me is I think this foreground with all the bushes at the bottom left of the image, it starts to anchor me there. And I have a hard time getting past that and into it. So I might have cut some of that out just so that I can actually start to go back through it. And I might have toned down the front layer just a little bit or darkened it down just a little bit more and actually brought out a little bit more light in the third layer back of the rock, just so I progress a little bit more. But it's a lovely capture, and it really does capture a weather moment. And 9.
Okay, and then we have one more image just for critique, not a score.
Do I critique this, or do the whole group critique it?
You do.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to know. Okay.
Chatfield tree round technique. Yeah.
So the maker went for the painterly look, and it works very nicely. It sets a mood. I might have not put the tree in the center. I might have offset it a little bit to give a little more dynamic aspect to the image. I do like though, I do like the progression of the colors, you know, the lighter grasses, the greens, and then going through the hills. And that's really pretty. So I think this is a lovely image, but I might just try seeing if you want to crop it one side or the other a little bit and just make it a little bit off center, just to give it a little bit more punch or drama to it.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have, let's see, it looks like 8 10s, F16s if I counted right.
Okay.
Yeah, so this first one is Ethereal Canyon Light by Dan Greenberg.
Hi, okay, well, thank you very much for that. This is Upper Antelope Canyon, and basically it's one of those kind of things where you get there at the right time, hopefully, and you're in there with 30,000 people, and luckily we had a highly paid guide fending for us, so we have like a few seconds to shoot this. And I just got, this is a 3-image HDR, 3-exposure HDR, and basically that's it. That's all I can really tell you. It was shot with a wide angle, and you know, just that's it.
Very nice.
Great, thanks, Dan. Hold Your Head High, Todd Little, or Lytle.
Yeah, thanks again. This was shot at a birds of prey, raptors. This is obviously a bald eagle. I chose to leave that little wingtip in there to remind me that this bald eagle, in fact, had a broken wing and couldn't fly at all. If you have this particular shoot was held out at Hudson Gardens, and the group I think is pretty well known in Colorado. That's called Hawk Quest. But I know there's 2 or 3 very reputable ones where they have rescued these birds, and you pay a fee so that they can continue to do the good work that they're doing. I looked at the metadata a little while ago. I don't remember exactly, but the problem is there's usually 10 or 12 people all trying to shoot kind of this portrait as they hold the bird up. I was fortunate because I had a longer lens. I think I shot this at 280 millimeters on a full frame camera. The picture was actually taken in 2014, but I just found it the other day. So there you go.
All right, thanks, Todd. Sandhill Cranes by Ron Schaller.
Yes, this was taken down at Monte Vista National Wildlife Refuge, and it's a crop of a smaller group out of a larger group at a 400 millimeter lens, and I just like the design of this group, and just did a little bit of sharpening and a little bit of noise reduction, and tried to bring the clouds out a little bit more in the background. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ron. Simply Sand and Sky, Todd Lytle again.
Thanks. Dan Greenberg and I took a trip down to Great Sand Dunes National Park at the end of August, and we also went to Monte Vista, but we didn't get anything like you got. I think we were a little late, but I actually got to Sand Dunes a day early before Dan. I was coming from another direction, and hiked in as far as I could into the dunes by myself, which in hindsight might not have been the smartest thing, because it really 1 step forward and 3 steps back hiking in that stuff. But to your point about maybe cropping it even a little bit more, I think that's fine. This image, as I've displayed it here, is actually only about 1/3 of the entire run of the dune elevation, and so I've already cropped it about 2/3, and yes, I think it does have a lot of sky in it, but I really wanted the framing to be the way it was and to have the dune kind of progressing. So anyway, we had fun. So it was another COVID outing. And Dan made me wear my mask every time I got in his car. So we played by all the rules.
That's good. Sounds like nobody got sick, so
No.
mission accomplished. All right, thanks. An early evening snack by Gwen Patton.
Okay, thank you for the 10. Anyway, this was taken in the Badlands of South Dakota on our RV trip last summer during COVID. And your suggestion of cropping more on the bottom, I had cropped quite a bit out, but yeah, I can see where I could probably crop a little bit more. But the light that evening was so gorgeous. And this guy just stood there for so long that I just, I bet I have 50 shots of him. Anyway, it was a great photo op.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Gwen. Nature's Design, Travis Broxton.
Yeah, I took this a few years ago. I don't even remember the year, but it's mirrored. I think I was on a engagement shoot or a wedding at Botanic Gardens and shot it in Botanic Gardens, and split it down the middle, flipped it, and bumped up the colors a little bit, and knocked down the ones in the rear a little bit, and that's pretty much it. I needed a nature shot, so I don't shoot a lot of nature. So this is, so I just went through the files to find something that I could do something with. But thank you for the 10.
Nice treatment of it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Travis. The Watchful Eye, Nancy Meyer. Is Nancy on tonight? All right, she's not on. She does have a comment here. Flamingo keeping its eye on its surroundings while resting.
Mm-hmm. Nice way to shoot them up close like that, to go in tight. Yeah.
Nancy's on, it's just she has her mic off. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, somebody said they didn't have a mic tonight, so they were.
Didn't have a camera.
Oh, no, I thought she said she chatted that she didn't have a mic. Somebody did. Okay. I don't know if it was her or she.
Going once, going twice. Here we go. Buffalo and housekeeper, Joe Bonita.
This was taken a few years ago in Africa, obviously, with a 600 millimeter lens on a subframe. So it's the equivalent of 900 millimeters, handheld at about a 250th of a second. So that's why the background is so blown out. And, you just have to do what you do because when you're in a Jeep, you can't really tripod anything. So that's what it is.
You're lucky they stayed so still to get them sharp. Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for that. I think that was all the 10s in F16, and that concludes our judging for tonight. So thanks again for your time tonight, Becky. A reminder for everyone, next month's the competition, the subject is open. So the open category allows photographers to submit images of any subject matter. Members are encouraged to explore photographic techniques and subjects outside their usual style. And our judge next month will be Joe Roybal.
Okay.
So that does it. So yeah, again, Becky, thanks, and appreciate you taking the time tonight and also reviewing the images ahead of time. You know that takes time, and we do appreciate that.
Well,
we're figuring out how to do this with Zoom and get around some of the technical limitations. So
a special thanks to your webmaster, Carl. I was having trouble with the WeTransfer, but he helped me through it, and I finally got the images. That was worrisome, but we succeeded.
Yeah, it took a try or two, but we got it done.
Thank you, Carl.
okay, good. Yeah, thanks for your help, Carl. Well, that's all we have. Any last comments or anything from anyone?
Cliff, this is Sean. Oh.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everyone know next program is on 12th of May, and that's going to be Beth Mancuso. She lives up in Minnesota, and she's going to do her Lightroom processing for landscape photography, and she's actually going to, and I'll work with you, Carl, on this, but she's going to upload some raw files to WeTransfer, and have the members download those and follow through or follow along on Lightroom for her steps. So.
Cool. Sounds like a good way to do it.
Yeah. So she thought it'd be a good learning tool for everyone to learn her style if they can walk through what she's doing.
Great. Okay. Anything else, anyone? All right, then. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. And we'll look forward to seeing you in May. Have a good evening.